All right, everybody. It is another Tuesday morning, and you know what that means. We've got breakfast with Bill yet again. It seems like just yesterday we were here, Bill. I'm excited for today's show. It's a topic that I suggested because you said I'm Money Week, so I'm here to get money strong today. We're talking all about negotiations.
Well, good morning. Thanks, Evan, for the intro. And yeah, Evan and I a few weeks ago were talking about an opportunity he was pursuing and how he wanted to give it away, and he was concerned about what he should charge. And we were doing some role playing around that conversation. And he said, this would be a great topic for Breakfast with Bill. We need to talk about negotiations. So that's what we're going to focus on today is negotiation. I hope you're all well. I hope you're safe and healthy and everybody's feeling good today. When we talk about negotiations, for some of you, you already felt that pang in your stomach, right? Of like, oh, I hate negotiations. And some of you are like, all right, let's get it on, because this is what I call good conversation is negotiation. I'm one of those people. I'm not afraid of negotiations because I love having spirited debate. I love entering into spirit-filled conversations that might be conflict-rich. If we can keep those in a healthy conflict format, then we can have great outcomes, I think. A couple things we need to think about, though, with regard to today and then negotiations in general. Negotiation is such a huge topic, right? Huge. We can't cover it all in 20 minutes that we normally set aside for Breakfast with Bill. So we're going to hit on some highlights today. Please don't take this as the graduate level course. This is more of just the teaser that we would put in the syllabus to try to get you to register for the course. So remember, we're going to be looking at highlights, not a comprehensive review. And then also think about how we go into negotiations. I want to spend some time talking about how we go into the negotiation, and then we can talk about some of the things that are critical for us to do once we're in the negotiation. And over time, I've learned from some great negotiators, by the way. And I've been really fortunate to have great mentors and people that I can emulate and learn from in this process. And one thing I learned early on from one of my mentors was great negotiators prepare, right? You just can't show up to the negotiation and say, well, let's see where this goes. Sometimes we want to do that, right? When we're unknown and it might be early stage and we're at the beginning of a relationship and we don't really understand everything that we're offering and we haven't really built a great value proposition to somebody, we could see where it goes. But once we're into what we would consider final negotiations, or we're moving towards some closure, we need to prepare. It's best to think about what are our best outcomes, and then what are our minimally acceptable positions in that negotiation, and map it out and say, I need this. This would be a great outcome, but I can't go lower than this. And don't think about it just in terms of financials, just in terms of a price, or just in terms of a rate. Think of all the things, all the elements that make up this deal, all the elements that make up this engagement and this opportunity. I like to create a checklist. Think of it as a scorecard, a shopping list. I've seen it called many things, but I like to think of our checklist that we need to go into the negotiation, where we can itemize all the things that might pop up. And you think of a negotiation a lot like a loose carpet. You step on it in one area and something pops up across the room. Well, that's negotiation. We could be talking about pricing in one moment, and then, the next thing they're talking about is payment terms, or they're talking about delivery and frequencies. And that's all important stuff. It's best for us to have that on a checklist in front of us so that we're not trying to manage all of that in our mind. When it's on paper, when it's in front of us, or, for us nowadays, iPads or whatever it might be that we could keep electronically, let's have our scorecard. Let's have our checklist of things that we want to make sure we're going to be talking about and covering and using as leverage throughout that negotiation. Having the scorecard will also keep you calm and rational, right? So if we can create the scorecard while we're calm and rational, which means before we get into the negotiation, then it's going to help keep us calm and rational in the negotiation so that we don't tend to become too emotional and feel like somebody's trying to take advantage of us, and that it becomes a little too personal. We want to stick to the list, keep everything in front of us, and keep us on that path so that we don't try managing too many of the unknowns. The other thing that's very important to remember as we enter into a negotiation is that it's not personal, right? This doesn't have to be I win and you lose. And if you win, then that means I lost. No, negotiations don't have to be personal. And one way to keep them from becoming personal is by using the language of we and us, right? Versus I and me. And when we're having conversations inside of a negotiation, if we use the language of us and we, and I say, well, that's not going to work for us, or we really think that we need to have blank, then it takes some of that personal element away versus me saying, that's not going to work for me. That's not going to work for me becomes a combative statement, right? It puts me at odds against the individual versus that just doesn't work for us. Tells them, oh, yeah, the organization might need something different. Subtle differences, a lot of psychological meaning, but get better at using the language of us and we versus I and me. Here at the Tellerico Group, we have about 10 colleagues now. There's about 10 members of our team. And when it was just me alone in my living room office or working out of Panera most days, I still use the language of us and we versus I and me. And we've grown into the us and the we's now. But use that language and it connotes something more group and something less personal. We also want to make sure that we don't always set the other person up to lose. Great negotiators don't put others in the position of losing all the time. First of all, if my vendor or my partner that I'm negotiating with is always losing, that's unsustainable. Right? We don't want them to be in positions where they have no margin and they have no ability to deliver to us, because that actually is going to hurt the relationship and ultimately hurt our product and hurt our experience. So don't put people in positions that aren't sustainable long term. And remember, as a great negotiator, what your job is when you're in that negotiation is to manage the tension, not force it away, not try to avoid it. Negotiations, by definition, will have tension because I want something, the other party wants something. So there's going to be a healthy tension there. Our job is to manage that tension and manage that conflict. And in the process of doing that, build trust by letting them know that we're confident in our position. We don't show anxiety. We don't want to show anger, right? We don't want to show fear. Let's manage that tension, build trust, and help build that relationship, because that's what great negotiations can generate, are good relationships. And we need to separate the people from the problem, right? So we don't want to make them personal. We want to always be objective and attack the problem, attack the challenge, attack the issue, not attack the individual. And as we go through the negotiation, remember, it's helpful for us to create clarity with the other person rather than just, getting off on tangents and letting them go from one topic to another. Let's manage the topic we're on. If it's price, if it's payment terms, whatever it might be, let's not jump all over the board like the ping pong ball. Stay in the moment and manage that issue that we're talking about, okay? The other thing is to think about going into negotiation is having this financially independent mindset. If we go into a negotiation where we know we need to win, we've already lost, right? If you go into a negotiation thinking, I have to walk away with this piece of the business or this piece of business, you've lost. You're going to find yourself in a bad position. You're going to agree to things you shouldn't agree to. Have an independent mindset, a financially independent mindset, and some trust in the process, right? And we get into these positions of weakness where we have to win this piece of business when we've failed to do the good work we need to do to build pipeline. So if you find yourself in a stressful situation where you say, I got to win today, I need this, I'm desperate, it's because you put yourself there and you're not doing enough of the good work that it takes to build pipeline and generate all other opportunities. So have that financially independent mindset. And remember, we need to keep a clear head, because when we think we need to win, we're not going to think clearly. And we need to let the other party know that we're open to a non-agreement. If we signal that, hey, I'm all in, now I just need you to, hey, can you help me? Well, you're not going to win that negotiation. I think of we've had several minivans over the years as having 3 children. We've gone through a lot of minivans, and when we trade them in, they don't look very pretty. And one time we were transitioning, we needed a new minivan, and Susie and I went out to the dealership, and it was raining on this evening. And the salesman said, well, I'll pull it into the garage for you. Go out to the service area. So there's Susie and I standing there waiting. The guy pulls in with this white new minivan. It was a Nissan Quest. And as he pulled up and got out of the van, Susie, my wife, looks at him. She goes, oh, I love it. This is exactly what I wanted. We lost the negotiation at that point, right? When Susie declares, I want this. This is the one for me, and I'm taking it home. What am I going to say to the guy? He knows that we're in. So have that mindset that lets the other party know that you're willing to walk away. Okay. And then the most critical element of negotiations for us to think about is, what are negotiations at their core, right? What is a negotiation? In our mind, negotiations are nothing more than a series of gives and gets, right? I'm going to give something to you, and I'm hoping to get something for you. We can never have a give without a get. If we're only giving, right, we're not negotiating. If we're in the midst of a conversation where somebody keeps asking me for something, and I'm giving, and I'm giving, and I'm giving, that's not a negotiation. That's me being bullied. That's me standing in the schoolyard getting my lunch money taken from me every day. And that's not a win. That's not healthy, and that's not the type of conversation we want to have. We can give gives. We have to give gives. I'm not somebody that says unrealistically, you go into a negotiation and it's a final number or your final offer, and you have to have a position of confidence and let them come to you. Yeah, you want to bring people to you. Yes, you want to be confident. But you have to give something. We have to let somebody else feel dignified. We have to let someone else feel like they're in the process. And then many times it's the right thing to do for them. So we can give gives, but we need to be mindful of getting some gets when we're giving the gives, right? And if we're only giving gives and we're saying yes to the things that people request, we encourage nibbling. And nibbling is when in a negotiation somebody says, can I have it for $100 cheaper? And we say yes. And they go, you know what? Actually, I want it for $100 cheaper, and I want to be able to pay you in 3 months. And we say yes. And then they ask for something else and something else and something else. That's nibbling, right? We want to get rid of nibbling in the process. We don't want to negotiate with nibblers. We don't want to encourage that nibbling. And the way we discourage nibbling is when we ask somebody for everything that we need to think about. What are the other things that you need to think about? If somebody's asking me for multiple things, or they ask me for something and go to something else, flush that out and say, well, before we agree to that, what are all the things we should be considering here? What are all the things that are important to you? Let's get them all out so we can talk about this and as a package. And if you throw that out to somebody, they probably don't have the list that you have. They probably aren't aware of everything they want, right? Because they had just tasted a little blood when you said yes the first time, and they're nibbling and seeing what more they can get. So if you ask somebody to give you everything at once, you can shut down that nibbling, and they might not have anything for you. They might just be like, that's all, or they'll ask for something else that you throw in, and we can deal with 1 or 2 or 3 things, but we don't want to deal with that laundry list that they're going to nibble through just because they get excitement, because when you say yes to somebody, it triggers all that excitement and all the hormones, and the endorphins are flying, and they're like, oh, what else can I get? No, discourage the nibbling by asking somebody to throw it all out at once for you. And it doesn't have to be confrontational, right? Very nice and easy, and it's a casual acknowledgement of there might be more. Why don't you tell me everything we should be considering? Let me know what else is important to you. What else should we be thinking about before we move forward? Just use questions, right? Use questions to encourage that conversation versus just taking your firm stance, yes or no, on something before you understand the full picture. Okay? So now we start thinking about gets. If I'm giving, and we're giving price concessions, which is as salespeople, the most common thing we're asked for, right? Some type of price concession, whether it's either a reduction in price or an increase in the service that we have to give them. Think about what your good gets are. If you need to make some type of price concession, and remember, it's okay to make a price concession. In many cases, it's mandatory. And if you're working with procurement organizations, you're going to make price concessions because procurement organizations are built, bonused, and trained on how do they get price concessions? How do they get more for less? And they have to go to their boss and show their boss that, hey, they came in here and I got them at 20% lower. Great, I get it, right? We need to be mindful of that. But that doesn't mean that we just give away value. That doesn't mean that we just give the price concession and we're happy that we only got beat up for 18% instead of 25%. No, think about what we can get that's very valuable for us that's in that negotiation. You know, one of my old mentors who's actually part of our organization now, Dan Dorn. Dan's a wonderful man, brilliant career. Used to lead the IBM Sales College in Atlanta. Was a founding vice president of sales at Lotus Notes. I learned so much from Dan over the years. It's such an honor to have him with us. He taught me one of my favorite phrases in negotiations, and that's the sleeves out of our vest, right? When we start giving away the sleeves out of our vest, that's something that could be valuable to the other, but really isn't that impactful to us. You know, so what are the sleeves out of our vest that we can give away? And then what are the things that we need to get that have great value for us? Some of the things that we like to think about could be payment terms, right? So we're going to give a reduction in price, but we're going to get more favorable payment terms. When you think about that, you know, if I have to give up a 10% price reduction, but I'm able to get somebody to go from 90-day payment terms to 30-day payment terms, that might be worth 10%, right? Or from 60 to 30. There's a lot of value in cash flow, especially today. So think about payment terms. Think about when the contract's going to get signed. You know, don't just say yes to something and then go back and say, when can I get that? If somebody's asking you for a price reduction, before you concede and say yes, ask the other party. Say, hey, Evan, if I'm able to get you 5%, if I'm able to get you to that lower number, when are you going to be able to get us the paperwork back? When will we be able to execute this agreement? And once you have that commitment, connect that commitment date to the price reduction and make it very clear in your revised proposal that this 5% reduction is good if the contract's signed by September 25th so that we can get it in for the end of the quarter. It's critical. Maybe it's the length of the agreement, right? We're gonna give you a reduction instead of for a 1-year commitment, a 2-year commitment. Very valuable for us to be able to book revenue on a further out basis. It might be referrals, right? It could be if somebody's going to give us a reduction and you know they're connected to someone else, maybe we ask them and say, we'll do that. Would you be able then to connect me to so-and-so? If we can do this, would you be able to connect me and make a good introduction to Bob? Referrals are incredibly valuable for us, right? And you think about, what do you have to give up for that? Do you give up 10%? I don't know. Whatever that number is, what also then is the cost of sale? Okay? So if somebody's able to walk you into another CEO or walk you into another great contact for you, great prospect for you, how long would it take you to get in front of that individual on your own? So connect referrals to price reductions or promises of future business. You know, if we do this, can we then also take on this other piece of business in this other part of your organization? But think about how we expand that. And I think the most overlooked get in negotiations is marketing help, right? Very rarely do people ask for marketing help in a negotiation. But think about how important is this company, this person, and their seal of approval, if you will, in acquiring new business. So if you're going to have to make a price reduction or you have to make some type of concession in the negotiation, ask for marketing help that could be them co-presenting with us at a trade show, at an industry show. It could be a testimonial for our website. It could be a case study they're willing to participate in. It could be a video testimonial that we can use on our website, on social media, and broadcast out to our mailing list. It might be something that you need insight and research wise. Get creative. Think about how this individual with whom is asking for something from us, our gives, what can we get that's going to be valuable and meaningful to the business? So I hope this helps you a little bit with the negotiations you're going to have today and in the days ahead. Again, by no means a comprehensive study, but just some ideas to trigger some thought. And if we could be of any help, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you're working on a particularly difficult problem right now or a particularly challenging customer or client, feel free to reach out. We're happy to bounce ideas off you and go through some of these mini role plays. Appreciate your time today as always, and hope you all stay safe. God bless. Have a great week.